Part 13. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 122. Zack is a little special among the beggars. Rudolph gave Zack a tube of wolf poison potion. For Zack, who is an ordinary person, the effect of wolf poison potion is very overbearing, which makes Zack's body obviously stronger than others. Reiner walked up to Zack and looked at him with satisfaction. "Kid, I see you haven't asked for bread or change for a while. I am naturally soft-hearted and can't bear to see you suffer. How about this, you come with me, I will give you a lot of bread." "Really?" "Of course it's true, very true." Zack suppressed his uneasiness and followed Reiner. The other beggars understood that after the bad guys and Zack left their sight, they should inform Rudolph, and Rudolph had already noticed what happened here in the pet crystal. Rudolph found the other beggars first. "You go back first, I will take care of the next thing." Lehman Town is Rudolph's home court, and no one can escape Rudolph's sanctions in Lehman Town. In the distance, Zack followed Reiner to the casino. Casino owner Xuanhuan will provide some convenience for Reiner. A casino without a backer will die miserably. At least the police station has been unhappy with the casino for a long time. Xuanhuan's backer is the priests of the Red Church who live at number 13 Paget Street. When Xuanhuan saw Reiner coming to the casino again, he hesitated because he also saw another beggar behind Reiner. He couldn't help but whispered, "Mr. Reiner, the beggar you brought yesterday is said to be dead. The police are investigating the matter. I think we should forget it today." "Dead?" Reiner was a little confused. "I saved her life? How could she die?" "Beggars, they are not healthy, maybe they died on the road." "If she died, she died. She was just a beggar from another place. Didn't you say that these beggars suddenly appeared in the town some time ago?" Xuanhuan didn't want to annoy the deacon, so he tried to persuade. "A beggar is dead. The problem now is not the beggar, but the police station. Captain Rudolph of the police station is investigating this matter. Captain Rudolph is not important. The key is that Captain Rudolph is a favorite of Sheriff Claude. Especially red, bright red, purple red. I think, forget it today, Master Deacon." Reiner glanced at Xuanhuan impatiently. "This is not your business, go prepare a room and prepare hot water." Xuanhuan had a headache, but he could only do it. He looked at Zack's body shape and thought that this beggar might be able to bear it. Zack followed Reiner upstairs and didn't say a word during the whole process. After entering the room, Zack sat on the chair uneasily. "Wait a moment, kid, it takes some time to make bread." "Okay, sir." Soon, the waiter came in and said that hot water was already available in the bathroom. Reiner nodded and asked the waiter to go out first, then he said to Zack, "Child, in our family, food is a precious gift from our ancestors. Every time we eat, we will thank our ancestors first. Every meal is an enjoyable and satisfying thing. We should respect food. They sacrifice themselves to fill our stomachs. Therefore, before enjoying the Holy Communion, clean yourself devoutly, which is the minimum respect for food. Go take a hot bath, and when you come out, I will give you a hearty supper." Zack took a bath obediently. He only took a bath in the river in summer. This kind of bathroom with hot water, he only heard others talk about it once or twice on the road, and Zack didn't even know how to turn on the hot water. He turned on the hot water in a hurry, and Zack didn't have the concept of adjusting the water temperature. He took a bath in the boiling hot water. He put on his new pajamas and went out. This pajamas was very new, which made him very uncomfortable. Reiner sat on the sofa and took a deep breath towards Zack, as if he was smelling something delicious. When Zack was thinking about what to do, he suddenly saw a black shadow rushing over. Reiner was very fast. He pounced on Zack with extreme hunger. He opened his mouth wide and showed two fangs. The fangs bit hard and pierced into Zack's neck. The blood race is very familiar with the structure of the human body and can always see where the artery is at a glance. Zach thought that he was very strong and was an outlier among beggars, but at this moment, he had no ability to resist at all. There was a tingling sensation from his neck. That was Reiner's vampire fangs, injecting decomposition agents into Zach's blood vessels. Decomposition agents will decompose impurities such as white blood cells in the blood. White blood cells and other immune cells are irritating to blood races, and only red blood cells are the favorite of blood races. The decomposition agents injected by the fangs also have the effect of anticoagulation, which is the natural anticoagulant of blood races. The anticoagulant injected into the plasma by the red priest pulley was a chemical preparation prepared by the alchemist. Fresh blood must have the body temperature of the blood food and the warmth of the warm mouth, so that the vampires can reach an intracranial orgasm at the moment of eating. Reiner had long discovered that children's blood was the freshest and most delicious. A mouthful of blood flowed into Reiner's mouth, across his throat, and made him moan comfortably. Just as Reiner was enjoying it, he suddenly heard the sound of glass breaking. Wow! Someone jumped in from the window. Reiner had to open his mouth, and the fangs left 2 holes with a diameter of half a centimeter, which led directly to Zach's carotid artery, and blood spurted out instantly. Just this moment of blood loss made Zach's whole body cold and he fell into hemorrhagic disease. When Reiner turned his head, it was too late. Rudolf picked up an ordinary revolver and fired all the bullets at Reiner. 6 alchemical bullets went straight into Reiner's back and burned his back. Reiner bent backwards and instinctively wanted to reach his back with his hands. Then, Rudolf stepped forward and kicked Reiner away. Rudolf supported Zach, who was about to fall, and found that Zach had fallen into a coma, but his life should not be a big problem. Rudolf hurriedly used potion to seal the 2 blood holes on Zach's throat, and then fed Zach the potion. There was a lot of noise upstairs. When Xuanhuan rushed in, he saw Rudolf standing in front of Reiner and inserting the 3rd alchemical dagger into Reiner's chest. Xuanhuan's soul flew up. The Red Church's deacon was actually controlled by the police station's alchemical dagger. It seemed that he was going to be used as a sacrifice next month. The police station was playing too much, asking the Red Church to sacrifice its own deacon? Xuanhuan thought this was too absurd. At this time, there was a ladder outside the window. Patrolman Sam finally climbed up the ladder. "Captain, I'm late." Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 123. Sam just climbed up a ladder and caught nothing when he got up. He only saw the vampire who had been hit by 6 bullets and had 3 alchemical daggers stuck in his body. Otherwise, the captain is the captain. He is just a little slow, so when he comes in, he can only help the captain deal with the aftermath. "Captain, will this really not kill this vampire? Is it possible that the vampire's recovery ability is also very strong?" Rudolf felt that his attack was indeed a bit harsh, but it was nothing. He believed that the vampires would not die so easily. Xuanhuan rushed to the broken window first. There was a folding ladder beside the window, which was obviously brought by people from the police station. The 2 men under the window had been knocked unconscious long ago. He was not worried about their men being beaten to death. The people in the police station were still cautious in their actions in Lehmantown. He walked quickly towards Rudolf again. "Captain, Captain, there must be some misunderstanding here. The little beggar will not die. He will wake up soon. I think you are also kinder to Mr. Reiner?" Rudolf turned his head and looked at Xuanhuan, then at Sam, and pointed at Xuanhuan with his chin. Sam understood immediately, took out the handcuffs and cuffed Xuanhuan directly. "Generous Xuanhuan, I know you can break free of these handcuffs, but I hope you will be more honest. It's easy to break free, but hard to put it back on." Xuanhuan was handcuffed obediently, and the aide of the Red Church was lying on the ground like a dead dog. If he resisted now, he would definitely attract retaliation from the police station. Casino, why don't you care about Reiner, Reiner? You should care about yourself first, and let's see how you can get rid of the crime of harboring heretics. At this time, some casino thugs rushed in from the door, but Casino immediately gave them a wink and motioned them to get out of the way. No matter how powerful Casino was in front of the gamblers, he had no ability to resist in front of the police station. So what if he can defeat the patrol captain in front of him? There is also a level 3 alchemist in the police station. Even if it hits the sky. So what if he defeated the level 3 alchemist? The city police department could still send stronger force. There is still a word spirit in the judicial office, and Casino can't escape even if he wants to. Casino walked out obediently and asked, Captain Rudolph, what are you going to do with Mr. Reiner? How to deal with it? I remember that a vampire can die if exposed to the sun for 3 days. What a good way to deal with it. He will be the sacrifice next month. I have never seen a vampire as a sacrifice in the records of the police station. It's a good time to try something new. Kashinoxen said, of course you have never seen sacrifices by the vampires, because the sacrifices are done by the vampires, how could they sacrifice themselves? At the same time, Kashino also knew that it was okay. As long as Reiner was not killed now, it would not be a big deal. Mr. Pooley would handle the matter. Soon, Reiner, who had been nailed to death with the alchemy dagger, and Casino were taken to the police station. Rudolph took Zack to the town's clinic. Zack was losing too much blood now, and the best way was a blood transfusion. After giving Zack a blood transfusion, Zack's complexion improved significantly and he woke up. Zack, you are brave. Mr. Captain, can this kill the vampire? I will try my best. After all, that vampire has the identity of the Aid of the Red Church. Zack felt a deep sadness at this time. Even if the evidence was conclusive, even if he was caught on the spot, and even if the people in the police station were on their beggar's side, wouldn't it still be possible to punish the murderer? Rudolph paid for Zack's medical and nutritional expenses, allowed Zack to have a good rest, and left the clinic. In the underground prison of the police station, a vampire appeared for the first time, which made everyone in the police station feel very strange. Don't tell me, the vampire's morbid temperament and thin face make him a bit handsome. Kelida looked at the vampire inside through the alchemy fence and judged his appearance. Kelida originally wanted to come down with Yvonne, but Yvonne said she didn't want to come. Really, in Yvonne's eyes, she only thought Rudolph was handsome. From behind came the bragging sounds of Sam and other patrolmen. At that time, I just knocked out a security guard at the casino with a mallet. The big guy was 2 heads taller than me, but so what? The captain and I quickly knocked down the 2 security guards. Later, when climbing to the 2nd floor, the captain insisted on going up first. Really, if I were the one who went up first, wouldn't I be the first to capture the vampire? You don't know that the vampire's fangs are as long as fingers and are very scary. I've blown it. The fangs are as long as fingers, and you can't even open your mouth. You can tell yourself, can your mouth accommodate a finger? I'm not lying, those fangs are very long anyway. I heard from the captain that the vampire fangs can directly penetrate the skull and suck out the brain marrow. The vampire Reiner in the prison was not panicked. He only thought it was funny. The vampires would not suck brains that are full of fat. That would be disgusting. Rudolph came to the basement at this time and said to Kelida, Kelida, please help check the files. I remember that in the legend, vampires have to die from exposure to the sun for 3 days, but the full moon sacrifice cannot last for 3 days. Is it because they die from the sun before the full moon sacrifice, or after the full moon sacrifice begins? Kelida went to check the files. Rudolph and Sam said, keep an eye on him and let me know if anything happens. Understood, Captain. Where is the casino owner? Casino, lock him up for a few days. The casino can't survive without him. He's more anxious than us. The next morning, Sheriff Cloud came to the basement and took a look at the vampire Reiner. Caught a vampire? Why? Sam replied, this vampire sucked a beggar to death, and when he was sucking the second beggar, he was caught by Captain Rudolph and me on the spot. Oh, he should be caught. At night, Mr. Pulley from the Red Church came to the underground prison. Reiner finally came to his senses. He ignored the pain caused by the alchemical dagger and shouted, Mr. Pulley, how dare those dirty blood feeders treat our vampires like this? Please tell the family and let the family avenge me. Mr. Pulley just asked, you sucked a beggar to death. So what, just a beggar? You were caught on the spot when you sucked the second beggar. It's all because of Cochonneau's poor work. The police station was able to get so close to the casino. The patrol captain who arrested you used to be a beggar in Lehman Town. I once gave him bread. Just a patrolman, what's the big deal? Reiner really felt that the world was absurd at this moment. Mr. Pulley, have you been here for too long? Why do I understand more and more what you are talking about? A beggar, a patrolman, aren't they both blood feeders? Pulley shook his head and turned away. Other people who stood up for beggars were meddling, but patrolman Rudolph was not. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 124. Kalita came to inform Rudolph and asked him to go to the sheriff's office. The moment he entered the sheriff's office, Rudolph was stunned. Reiner, the vampire who should have been in the underground prison, was standing behind the Red Priest Mr. Pulley. Rudolph looked at Reiner for a while, found a chair and sat down without saying a word. When Reiner saw Rudolph, he felt a burst of pain from the bullet wounds and the wounds from the alchemical dagger all over his body. Although he had been treated, these wounds would not heal in a short time. Reiner stared at Rudolph. If Mr. Pulley was not there, he would want to take revenge now. Sheriff Claude tapped his fingers on the table in annoyance. Mr. Pulley, I have been the sheriff for more than 10 years. In these 10 years, the Red Church has never had such a thing. The deacon of the Red Church actually took the people of Lehman Town as blood food. This is unacceptable. Before Mr. Pulley said anything, Reiner spoke first. He was a beggar who happened to pass by Lehman Town. He is not from Lehman Town. Of course, I will not attack people from Lehman Town. After being interrupted by Reiner, Sheriff Claude's eyelid muscles twitched a few times, and it was obvious that he could no longer suppress his anger. Rudolph looked at Mr. Pulley. His face was long and thin, and his face was abnormally pale. Rudolph had learned last night that Mr. Pulley had always been a vampire who lived in Lehman Town and presided over the full moon sacrifice. Mr. Pulley said. Fabreau prospered because of the iron mine. All the people in Lehman Town migrated here for various reasons. Your previous generations were all outsiders. Perhaps those beggars will become real Lehman Town residents in a dozen years, but now, I don't think they are still Lehman Town residents. I am deeply sorry for the death of one beggar and the injury of another beggar. In this matter, I think our two sides have different definitions of Lehman Town residents, that's all. Reiner's face looked much better, and Mr. Pulley was on his side. Mr. Pulley continued. Mr. Sheriff, Mr. Patrolman, I'll propose a solution, you see if it's appropriate. Reiner attacked the beggar, but subjectively, he didn't think he was attacking Lehman Town residents, he thought the beggar was an outsider. I think Reiner is not subject to the Red Church agreement, and there is no need to judge Reiner. Reiner breathed a sigh of relief, but Rudolph looked lost. Yesterday, the sheriff had told him some news. The Red Church agreement is one of the secrets of Fabreau City. A long time ago, a blood clan family, the Revno family, lived on the territory of Fabreau City. Later, the Alchemy Council discovered iron ore here. The royal family and the Alchemy Council organized a pioneering army and established Fabreau City on the iron ore. The Revno family is certainly not the opponent of the Alchemy Council, but the Alchemy Council did not kill them all. Instead, it signed the Red Church Agreement with the Revno family. In Fabreau City and the surrounding towns, blood clans can only move in the Red Church and cannot attack any local humans. The nobles and the Alchemy Council allow the Red Church to hold sacrifices every full moon. This is the origin of the full moon sacrifices in Fabreau City and several surrounding towns. The agreement stipulates that any blood clan who attacks humans will be tried by the Alchemy Court. The Revno family also agreed to this agreement. The Revno family follows the first commandment of blood clans and avoids the world. Now it is nothing more than living in seclusion in the Red Church. These were just what Rudolph learned yesterday, and they were not even in any records of the police station. The sheriff said last night that the promise had been in effect for more than 100 years, and it was beyond the sheriff's expectation that something like this had happened. Rudolph suddenly remembered Jennifer's cousin, Henry, who had the castle bat. A marginal heir of the nobility could get the things of the vampires. Obviously, the relationship between the vampires and the city of Fabreau was much deeper than it seemed. Seeing that the sheriff did not answer, Mr. Pulley also knew that the sheriff was not satisfied, and he continued. However, Sheriff Claude, if no punishment is imposed on Reiner at all, it is obviously a shame for the efforts made by the patrol officers of the police station in maintaining public order. I have applied to the family, and the family has responded quickly. Mr. Pulley paused to let others pay more attention to his words. In view of Reiner's failure to restrain his behavior, the family decided to exile Reiner to the Ravener Castle, and he was not allowed to go out without permission. There was silence in the office. Reiner looked at Mr. Pulley in disbelief. He couldn't imagine why the family gave him such a heavy punishment. Rudolph frowned. He couldn't understand why he just couldn't go out. Sheriff Claude touched the beard on his chin, not knowing whether he should express his opinion now. At this time, Mr. Pulley spoke again. Sheriff, Reiner's first embrace came from the stone coffin vampire Vanderlyn. Hearing about the stone coffin vampire, Sheriff Claude knew that Mr. Pulley really tried his best. Ordinary vampires can only sleep in wooden coffins, at least Mr. Pulley is a wooden coffin vampire. Wooden coffins cannot be preserved for a long time, so there is little power of the ancient vampires in the wooden coffins. The stone coffin is different. The ancient stone coffins of the Ravno family have a history of at least 2,000 years. Sleeping in the ancient stone coffins is of great help to the growth and promotion of the vampire's strength. If you want to become a vampire, you must obtain the first embrace of the vampires. The first embrace also means that the two vampires have established a blood relationship. The stone vampire Vanderlyn is equivalent to Reiner's father in terms of blood. The sheriff nodded. Okay, I understand, then expel Reiner, and this matter ends here. Wait, Reiner was still unwilling. He walked quickly from behind Mr. Pulley to the front. What's going on? Why was I suddenly exiled back to the Ravener Castle? Mr. Pulley. I want to see my blood father Mr. Vanderlyn. It's just because the city's Red Church has no quota that I was allowed to spend some time in the town church. My first embrace came from the honorable stone vampire Vanderlyn. How can you be qualified to exile me? Mr. Pulley shook his head. Reiner had just become a vampire and was still too young. Pulley took out a piece of parchment and handed it to Reiner. If Reiner accidentally sucked blood food to death somewhere else, then Reiner might really be fine. However, Sheriff Claude wrote a stern letter to the Red Church, which let the Red Church know that Sheriff Claude was serious about this matter. In order to appease Sheriff Claude, the Red Church had to take punitive measures. Reiner saw the red handprint of his blood father Vanderlyn on the parchment, and he immediately became depressed. Mr. Pulley stood up from his chair. Let's go, Don't lose the family anymore. He finally said, Sheriff Claude, tomorrow night, the family will come to take Reiner away. The Ravno family keeps its promise. Tomorrow night, you can send someone to verify our law enforcement. Reiner put away the parchment dejectedly, and when he was about to leave, he looked at Rudolph viciously. This look was hatred and malice. After the two left, Rudolph did not leave. Sheriff Claude knew that he still needed to convince Rudolph. After all, Rudolph was going to expose the Blood Clan for 3 days. Rudolph, I know you are in a bad mood. It is difficult for vampires to give birth to offspring, so they use the first embrace method to increase family members. The third ring of the vampires is the offspring. If a vampire creates an offspring through the first embrace, then the offspring is like the child of this vampire, and must be responsible for the child until the offspring completely masters the ability of the vampire. Reiner is the descendant of the stone coffin vampire Vanderlyn. I have done everything I can, but it is still a long way from executing Reiner. However, you don't have to lose heart. The Revno family has lived in Fabreau City for a long time, and they have become accustomed to life in the town. If a vampire is exiled to the Revno castle, it will definitely be a very painful punishment. The Revno castle is dozens of kilometers away from here, and it is very desolate. You go to the Red Church tomorrow night to witness the Revno family exiling Reiner. Rudolph lowered his eyes and stood up silently. Okay, that's the only way. I'll go to the Red Church tomorrow night. What should be blamed for this matter? We can only blame the beggar for having no parents, while Reiner has a powerful blood father. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 125. Rudolph stood alone outside the church, leaning on his cane. A deacon named Vanya said, "It's almost out, Captain Rudolph." 2 hours ago, the deacon Vanya said this, and Rudolph was already very impatient. Half an hour later, 2 men in black robes and hoods, whose faces could not be seen, walked out of the church pulling an iron chain. At the other end of the iron chain was a pair of alchemical handcuffs. I didn't expect that the vampires were also using alchemical products now. Reiner came out wearing alchemical handcuffs. The vampires showed Rudolph their determination. They really wanted to exile Reiner. When Reiner passed by Rudolph, there was a clanking sound of iron chains colliding. Reiner stood still, and he pulled the iron chain, making a sound. You are done. Didn't anyone teach you? You must not be targeted by the vampires. Haven't you heard of the vampires' 100-year blood feud? You have provoked a noble immortal. I have a lifespan of 200 years, I will remember you. When the alchemist Claude dies, I will be released. You can only suppress me for a while, but I can take revenge on you for 100 years. I will become a level 2 vampire, a level 3 vampire, wait for my revenge for hundreds of years. I will not only take revenge on you, but also on everyone related to you. I will suck the blood of all your descendants and plant the most vicious blood curse on them until you are in hell, howling with regret for your current behavior. Reiner bared his teeth at Rudolph, showing his sharp fangs. Rudolph stared at Reiner expressionlessly. 100-year blood feud. The most frightening thing about the vampires is that they can live for a long time and have a long time to take revenge. Rudolph was threatened, but he thought it was a good thing. Originally, Rudolph was really ready to give up. Just as Sheriff Claude said, Reiner is a descendant of the sarcophagus vampires. The sheriff also said that one can only compromise with the vampires, and no one can really defeat the vampires. Perhaps the Red Church agreement is the result of the compromise between the alchemists, knights and the vampires. The vampires will take hundreds of years to seek revenge, just as Reiner said. The vampires like to talk about blood feuds, and only blood feuds can give the vampires a little fun in their long lives. Other apostles also have the possibility of longevity, but only high-level apostles will seek the opportunity of longevity. But the vampires are different. As long as they become vampires, even blood servants, they will have a long life. In Reiner's blood-red pupils, there is humiliation and tyranny. Humiliation because of being exiled, tyranny because of the eagerness for revenge. Rudolph did not speak, Mr. Pulley did not speak, and other vampire deacons did not speak. Reiner was taken away. Mr. Pulley simply turned around and entered the Red Church. He was in a very bad mood because of the pressure from Sheriff Claude and the sarcophagus vampire Vanderlyn these 2 days. He couldn't care about the look of a patrolman. The deacon Vanya looked at Reiner's back and felt scared. If they had been persuaded by Reiner a few days ago, they would have been exiled to the Ravno castle. The Ravno family is also an outlier among the vampires. The people of the Ravno family have been accustomed to life in the city, have sufficient blood, and are not in any danger. There are many sleeping vampires in the castle, and you must be careful there so as not to disturb any big shots. There are also heavy labors to keep the huge castle clean and serve the sleeping vampires who wake up from time to time. Rudolph also left the Red Church. He lowered the brim of his hat and his eyes were cold. 2 days later, a man appeared at the door of a werewolf tribe. This man was covered in a black robe and nothing could be seen. When this person bypassed all the level 1 werewolf teams on the periphery and appeared directly at the entrance of the tribe, the werewolves in the tribe were frightened. Soon, the level 2 werewolf appeared at the entrance of the tribe. "Who are you?" A voice came from under the hood, "Bloody Saren." "Wizard. You are a wizard." The level 2 werewolf was about to pounce, but then he felt something was wrong. Why was the wizard waiting at the entrance? If the wizard wanted to obtain the relic, couldn't he just rush in and kill all the werewolves? Bloody Saren, that was a famous level 3 wizard in the past. "What do you want to do, wizard?" The first reaction of the level 2 werewolf was to step back. He felt a dull pain in several parts of his body, which were organs where the relic might appear. Eyes, wolf fangs, claw blades. "Don't worry, I'm here to ask you for help." "Help? What for? Do you have a feud with the Blood Clan?" The level 2 werewolf didn't know why the wizard in front of him mentioned the Blood Clan, but replied. "Yes, the ancestor of the evil god, the ancestor of the Blood Clan and the ancestor of the werewolf are 3 brothers, and they turned against each other in the end. The hatred between us and the Blood Clan is the deepest. They always occupy a lot of land with castles, leaving us no place to hunt." Rudolph suddenly thought that the initial stage of these 3 apostles all started from servants, God servants, blood servants, and wolf servants. They are also obsessed with sacrifices, sacrifices to evil gods, sacrifices to Blood Clan ancestors, and sacrifices to werewolf ancestors. Rudolph continued. "I know the general root of the 3 blood clans, find the 3 blood clans, and attack them. Why should I do this? You take revenge on the vampires, and I get the relics. We both get what we need." The voice under the hood was very cold. "I must get myself a few relics today, either from the vampires or from you. I hope you can make a choice quickly." The threat still worked, and the level 2 werewolf agreed quickly. If he didn't agree, the wizard in front of him might kill them, and then find another werewolf tribe to see if the next werewolf tribe would agree. In the wilderness in the distance, 3 vampires were on their way. The alchemical handcuffs had been put away long ago. "Does Mr. Vanderlyn really agree to exile me?" After getting a positive answer, Reiner looked depressed, and then he kept asking questions, one question after another. "What does the castle of the Ravno family look like? You haven't been there for decades. Are there several vampire ancestors who are over 500 years old in the castle? What should we do if we want to eat? What? We need to prepare fresh blood for the ancestors. Isn't the blood sent by the church good enough? The blood doesn't taste good. Is there any alchemical additive? Where can we find fresh blood?" The 2 deacons escorting him were also annoyed by the questions and stopped answering any questions. Reiner hated the patrolmen even more. Just as the three of them were walking slowly, they suddenly heard a wolf howl. Werewolf. It's a werewolf. Reiner was excited. If I give Mr. Vanderlyn many werewolves, can I atone for my sins? But soon they saw a level 2 werewolf. Reiner fled in a panic. The three of them were dispersed by the werewolves, and he had to flee in the direction of the town. How did he encounter a level 2 werewolf? He was only a level 1 vampire and was no match for a level 2 werewolf. If he ran back to the town, he might be punished by Mr. Pulley, but it was better than being torn to pieces by the werewolves. However, after he ran for a while, he saw someone waiting for him in front of him. Rudolph lowered his hood and looked at Reiner not far away. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 126. Reiner looked at Rudolph, who should not be here at all. How dare you follow me? How dare you? You can despise my ability, but you can't doubt my courage. 100-year blood feud can't scare me. Too many people surrendered and compromised in front of the vampires, making the vampires fall into an illusion, as if no one was not afraid of the 100-year blood feud. Reiner immediately realized a possibility, that it was not accidental that they were targeted by the werewolves. Did you collude with the werewolves? Rudolph didn't answer, but just stared at Reiner. This made Reiner a little creepy, just like when he was targeted by the stone coffin vampire Vanderlyn. Reiner's voice became louder and louder. Aren't you a hypocritical patrolman with a strong sense of justice who stands up for beggars? Why are you silent? Why are you colluding with werewolves? Do you know? Rudolph spoke up. I like the wilderness. It's too big and too empty here. No matter what happens in the wilderness, no one will know. The endless wilderness, where no one can be seen for more than 10 kilometers. In the wilderness, you can completely unleash your animal nature. In the wilderness, everyone is a werewolf. Don't you want to take hundreds of years to avenge me? Coincidentally, the one standing in front of you is the Scorpio Wizard, who is also famous for holding grudges. Let's see, is your blood feud stronger, or is my holding grudges stronger? Wizard? Are you a wizard? Reiner's red pupils shrank, and fear appeared in them. Some black dots as big as fists suddenly appeared in the dark night behind Rudolph. They were bats flying silently. In addition to having a long lifespan, each level 1 vampire can create his own bat. These bats usually live in caves or castles, so they are also called castle bats. These bats pounced on Rudolph, ready to suck Rudolph's blood and inject toxins. Rudolph just raised his hand. Reiner's vision instantly became bright, and it was a flame-like purple light. He could no longer see any other colors, only jumping purple. Not only in the eyes, but also in the nostrils, mouth, sleeves, and collars, there were purple flames. Reiner's ears did not catch fire, and Rudolph deliberately stayed for a while longer so that he could hear Rudolph's words. Zach, the second beggar you sucked. From the time you sucked his blood, you were already a dead man. His blood is poisonous. Purple flames burst out from Reiner's body. Rudolph was a little too strong, and Reiner was quickly burned to ashes by the purple flames. The castle bats around, without their masters, flew away like headless flies. This was an unequal battle. To fight against the Scorpio Wizard, poisoning meant death. Only a pair of fangs were left on the ground, which were Reiner's relics. Rudolph walked over, kicked away the ashes, picked up the fangs, and the fangs disappeared from Rudolph's hands. The fangs turned into meteors and passed through the star map in Rudolph's mind. The meteor hit a bright star in the Scorpio star field. On December 14th of Scorpio, the Scorpio Beta star was lit up. From the Scorpio Beta star, 3 suspended stars fell. Level 1 blood-sucking fangs, Level 1 castle bat magic, Level 1 blood bat magic. Level 1 blood-sucking fangs are a magic weapon combined with teeth. used to suck blood and replenish one's own physical strength and status. Rudolph felt that it was useless. It seems that this magic weapon is to be combined with the tiger's fang. Rudolph already has the teeth of a zombie in his mouth, and he doesn't want to have two more blood-sucking fangs. Level 1 Castle Bat technique is used to control bats. Level 1 blood clans have very weak attack power. Bats that have not been modified are just numerous and fly silently, but their attack power is really not strong. Moreover, the castle bats need to be matched with the blood clan's toxins to work. Rudolph doesn't want to spend time raising bats, nor does he want to deal with their toxins one by one. Comparatively, the last one, the level 1 blood bat technique, Rudolph thinks it is somewhat useful. Blood bat technique, 1 drop of blood creates a blood bat. Blood bats have the same silent flight as bats, and can also attack others like bats. This is a kind of witchcraft that can be used when injured. It does not need to keep a large number of bats like the castle bats, which is much more practical. Therefore, Rudolph quickly chose the level 1 blood bat technique. He opened his palm, and Reiner's fangs appeared in Rudolph's palm, pointing the fangs at his fingers and piercing them. The blood poison of the blood clan still remained in the fangs of the blood clan. These blood poisons will help Rudolph learn the blood bat technique, and he will no longer need the fangs in the future. A drop of blood appeared on the finger, and the blood drop in the night was black and red. Leo witchcraft swelling, the blood drop swelled on Rudolph's fingertips, without adding more blood, but it swelled to the size of a fist. The expanded blood stain was like a bubble, with a circle of translucent blood film on the outside. Because the blood is black and red, this film blends into the night and is extremely difficult to observe. Pisces witchcraft alien, this is the new witchcraft that Rudolph has learned from this witchcraft. 2 fish with their tails connected together swim around in the water, and can squeeze the water between the 2 fish into various shapes. The expanded translucent blood bubble slowly deformed and grew wings, a head, and teeth. All of these were made up of the blood bubble membrane. It's just that after the expansion, the color of the blood bat became very light, as if the black and red had lowered its transparency and turned into a bat-like water mist. The blood bat took off from Rudolph's hand and flew around Rudolph. There was no sound at all, and the faint transparent outline could only see a little black and red. The concealment of the blood bat exceeded Rudolph's expectations. After the matter here was settled, Rudolph went to the werewolf tribe. Since this level 2 werewolf tribe was seen, it could not be kept. The surrounding farms had to rely on the help of the druid elders to face such a werewolf tribe. The level 2 werewolf returned happily with his tribe. Today, they were able to kill 2 vampires, and the hatred in their blood made revenge even more satisfying. They also drove one of the vampires to another place according to the wizard's request. As for what the end of the vampire targeted by the wizard would be, it should be worse than being torn to pieces by the werewolf. The werewolves around did not wipe the blood on their mouths, so that they could always savor the delicious taste of revenge. Level 2 werewolf has a keen sense of smell, and he prefers the smell of blood from the vampires. In the smell of blood from the vampires, the werewolf smelled a little bit of human blood. Level 2 werewolf asked, "Is there a werewolf team going to the farm to hunt tonight?" "No, leader." Level 2 werewolf didn't ask much. What he didn't notice was that a blood bat exploded gently in front of him, leaving some blood mist, which was inhaled into his nasal cavity. When he accidentally looked into the distance, he found a man in a robe standing on the top of a distant hill. A feeling of numbness suddenly came from his body, and this feeling became more and more serious. The man in the robe just walked towards him. As the distance approached, the toxins in the werewolf's body became more and more, until he fell completely. As a long-distance poisoning witchcraft, the effect of bone-eroding poison is very good. Rudolph nodded with satisfaction. The attack power of the blood bat was negligible, but the addition of scorpion toxins made poisoning easy. Slowly, he looked a bit like a scorpion wizard. It is said that those famous Scorpio wizards are the most bizarre among all wizards. Their attacks are silent and their magic cannot be avoided. Other level 1 werewolves also fell one after another, and Rudolph stood in front of the level 2 werewolf. "I am helping you, why do you want to kill me?" Faced with this question from the werewolf, Rudolph didn't know how to answer, so he had to admit generously. "Maybe it's because I have no quality." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 127. Level 1 werewolves have been made into wolf poison potions. As for level 2 werewolves, Rudolph felt that the relics made by level 2 werewolves were of no use to him. After waving his hand, the dead level 2 werewolf stood up again. Rudolph planned to keep this werewolf for the time being and make it into a zombie first, maybe it would be useful when dealing with the vampires in the future. In addition to level 2 werewolves and level 1 werewolves, there are many wolf servants in the werewolf tribe. It is not a technical job to eliminate so many wolf servants, but a physical job. After being busy for a while, Rudolph still let a few wolf servants run away. However, the threat of wolf servants to the farm is much smaller, and ordinary farmers can deal with them with guns. After dealing with the werewolves, Rudolph quickly went around to the other end of the town and pretended that he was patrolling in another direction, met several druid tribes, and helped the farm several times. When Rudolph returned to the police station, it was already a few days later. Another week passed, and Rudolph was called to the office by the sheriff, and Mr. Pulley was also in the office. The sheriff looked serious. "Rudolph, according to Reiner's speed, he should have arrived at the castle of the Ravno family. However, the castle sent news that Reiner and the 2 Blood Clan deacons who escorted him did not show up. There are 2 situations now. The first is that they were attacked by werewolves, which is not uncommon in the wilderness. The second situation is that Reiner, who had just passed the first embrace, did not obey the decision of the Ravno family and might have escaped halfway. Rudolph, if he escapes, you must be careful. According to the custom of the Blood Clan, Reiner will retaliate." Rudolph thought to himself, "Be careful, but not be careful of Reiner." Mr. Pulley looked at Rudolph once. "Captain Rudolph, if you see Reiner, you must notify me first. The family has sent a deacon to investigate this matter." After that, Mr. Pulley got up and left. For a moment, Pulley thought that it might be the patrol captain in front of him who killed Reiner, but in a flash, he felt it was impossible. How could a patrol captain kill 3 blood clans? The sheriff said after he left, "Mr. Pulley said just now that when Reiner left, he made a 100-year blood feud with you." "Yes. Why didn't you tell me earlier? This matter is serious." Rudolph felt that it was unnecessary. He could solve this small danger by himself. The sheriff said, "If Reiner was torn to pieces by the werewolf, there is no need to say anything more. If Reiner comes back to find you, be sure to tell me first." "Got it?" Rudolph asked what he was more concerned about. "Sheriff, who is the steward of the Blood Clan? Is he powerful?" "The Blood Clan has a more stringent hierarchy than the nobles. The Upper Blood Clan has absolute dominance over the Lower Blood Clan. Because the Lower Blood Clan are all descendants of the Upper Blood Clan, they are all created by the Upper Blood Clan. Therefore, the Lower Blood Clan must absolutely obey the orders of the Upper Blood Clan. If there is any disobedience, the Upper Blood Clan will send the steward to directly execute the Lower Blood Clan." Vampires. This kind of non-compliance even includes breaking the rules when entering the door and stepping on the wrong foot. The reason why Reiner dared to do something extraordinary in Lehmantown is because Mr. Pulley is not his blood father, otherwise, Reiner would have to count the beats even when breathing. And the deacon is specifically here to execute the orders of the upper vampires. In this case, the deacon must first deal with whether Reiner has defected. If the possibility of defection is ruled out, the deacon will investigate whether it is a werewolf attack. The vampires and werewolves have a feud. I hope Reiner has now entered the werewolf's stomach. When Rudolph left the police station, he saw a child outside the police station. The beggar Zack stopped Rudolph. His eyes were firm, as if he had made up his mind. "Mr. Rudolph, I want you to help me." "Help you with what?" "Help me become stronger. I want my friends to stop being bullied." "How do you help?" Rudolph gestured to Zack as he walked and said. Zack followed Rudolph in small steps. "Mr. Rudolph, can you help me become an alchemist?" "I'm willing to do anything for this." "Except for this, I can try to help you with other things." "Unfortunately, I'm not an alchemist myself, so I can't help you become an alchemist." "Captain, can you help me become a knight?" "I'm willing to do anything for this. Except for these two things, I can try to help you with other things." "If you want to become a knight, it's useless for the two of us to work hard. You need your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and all your ancestors to work hard. Only if they are knights can you be a knight." "What about druids? Can you help me become a druid?" "I'm willing to do anything for this. Except for these three things, I can try to help you with other things. Unless you are born in a druid tribe, the druid tribe pays more attention to their tribal totems and will not accept outsiders." Rudolph looked at Zack's lost look and remembered how he felt when he was rejected 3 times by Sheriff Claude. Is there really no hope? Knights and druids, no hope. Alchemists are better, but there is little hope. How little hope? Rudolph explained. First, you have to go to the Alchemy Academy when you are young to learn about alchemy and experiments. After graduation, you can get a degree certificate from the Junior Alchemy Academy. Second, you need to find 3 alchemists to recommend you. The recommendation letter from the alchemist requires not only favors, but also money. Depending on the personal relationship, each person needs at least 100 gold shields. Finally, you need to prepare about 200 gold shields, pay the Alchemy Association's review fee, etc. The alchemist is a kind of apostle that consumes a lot of resources and is extremely resource demanding. Rudolph calculated his income. He could make witchcraft and sell it for money, and he had just saved 500 gold shields. If he were not a wizard, maybe he would have earned so much money when he was old. But if he wanted to become an alchemist apprentice at that time, he would not be able to remember anything or do anything at that age. There would be no alchemy experiment. The room wants him. Zack's heart sank completely. But, I can't even write, how can I study in the Alchemy Academy? Rudolph patted Zack on the shoulder. As long as you are willing to give up, nothing is difficult in the world. It will be great when you grow up and have some strength in your arms and legs. At least you can find a job as an apprentice and won't be begging on the street or being expelled all the time. Rudolph left Zack alone to digest the news. He couldn't help but turn around and take one last look at Zack. He was surprised. In Zack's eyes, he did not see despair and loss, but instead saw a little relief. It was the relief after making a decision, just like Rudolph at the time. Rudolph had a vague feeling that Zack wanted to do something extraordinary. However, Rudolph quickly turned his head and did not ask any more questions. What could be more outrageous than watching a vampire bite his own throat with his own eyes? What could be more outrageous than burying one's friends with one's own hands? Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 128. There is a river outside the town of Lehman. There is a bridge on the river, and Zack sits under the bridge. The reflection of the moonlight is broken by the flowing river. Zack hides in the shadow of the moonlight, preparing his own ceremony. What Zack doesn't know is that in the distance of the stream, between 2 trees, there stands a figure. This figure is like a low tree trunk, and it is difficult to distinguish. Rudolph looked at the bridge hole from a distance, looking at Zack under the bridge hole. In front of Zack, there is a stone slab. This stone slab is something left by the broken-handed Townsend. On it is a terrifying picture. A man with a smile on his face, holding a knife in his left hand, cutting the flesh on his right arm. Not only is his right arm full of knife wounds and missing pieces of meat, his belly has disappeared, and his winding intestines are engraved on the stone slab. Several iron nails as thick as arms are inserted into his shoulders, legs, and feet. There are even 3 iron nails as thick as fingers on his head. This is a painful portrait of an extremely self-abusing person. Zack stared at the slate for a long time. He took out a dagger and stared at the blade of the dagger. The dagger slowly moved towards the slate, and Zack's left hand was already spread out on the slate. A mouse appeared beside Zack and saw everything. Rudolph in the distance moved his body. He wanted to come out and do something, but in an instant he returned to being motionless. All within the light cone is fate, irresistible and unstoppable. Could he rush out and say, "Come on, be a wizard with me"? Who is better than the other, the wizard or the evil god? Birth is the beginning of pain. The mother body is in agony because of me. Cruel people will even kill the poor mother body because of their own birth. That first cry is the proof of pain. Living is the continuation of pain. We witness pain and experience pain. The more miserable people are, the more pain they experience. Until they slowly become numb in pain. Death is the climax of pain. Let the pain bloom with death. After the brilliant bloom, it will wither. That destroyed life will eventually express the last struggle with death. Pain is a disaster, and pain is also power. Please the evil god with your pain. The evil god will give you the power to control pain. Zack overheard this prayer from the broken-handed Townsend. After reciting this prayer that he had always remembered, Zack chopped off his fingers without hesitation. Zack's little finger was cut off. For others, this requires great perseverance, but for Zack, this is his enlightenment. He needs strength and needs to fight against this world that makes him feel painful. He needed strength to help those beggars grow up. His requirements were not high, he just wanted his friends in the mud to grow up. I heard that when they grow up, they won't suffer so much. After the little finger was cut off, it rolled on the inclined stone slab. A large amount of blood gushed out from the broken finger, leaving a large black and red patch on the stone slab. However, to Zack's disappointment, he didn't feel any difference at all. The wound hurt a little bit at first, and then it burned. When Zack was at a loss, there was a sudden sharp pain at the burning wound. Zack's head was soaked with cold sweat, but he gritted his teeth and didn't make a sound. After waiting for a long time, except for the pain, it didn't bring him any changes. Zack picked up the dagger again and stared at the stone slab. Pleasure the evil god with your pain. The evil god will give you the power to control pain. The dagger fell fiercely again. This time, I don't know if it was because of psychological factors or because the dagger he picked up was not sharpened, Zack didn't cut off his ring finger. The ring finger was only broken, and the dagger cut half of the flesh. Zack almost fainted from the pain at this moment, but he bit his lip to wake himself up. Then, he pulled the dagger up and down, cutting his ring finger. This long and lingering pain was even more unforgettable. Rudolph shook his head, came out of the woods, and walked towards Zack from the blind spot of his sight with the cover of the bridge. Zack's behavior continued. It took him some effort to finally cut off his ring finger. At this moment, anger, unwillingness, and other emotions were gone, leaving only pain. Zack suddenly felt that the portrait of the evil god Pain on the stone slab came alive, and the eyes of the portrait seemed to move. The vision in front of him changed, and Zack seemed to see the real evil god Pain. The evil god Pain sat in the mud that could not be seen at the end, holding a stick in his hand, and was hitting his legs again and again. Large pieces of flesh had been cut off from his legs, exposing bones. The stick was hitting the exposed flesh and blood, breaking the leg bones more and more. The evil god looked at Zack briefly with a painful gaze, which made Zack feel like an electric shock. In addition to the broken finger, all the nerves were in severe pain. Zack had a vague feeling that if he fainted at this time, he would get nothing. Because after fainting, he would not feel pain. He tried his best and used all his strength to look at the evil god in pain. The evil god still had that stiff smile on his painful face, as if his wounds and the iron nails inserted into his body had never appeared. I don't know how long he twitched on the ground. Zack stopped twitching, and his pupils calmed down from the violent vibration. Zack struggled to get up from the ground. He looked at his broken finger and felt very strange. The torn muscles and broken bones of the broken fingers were visible, but he just couldn't feel the pain. Or rather, he could control his pain. He tried to change, and suddenly, the piercing pain came from his broken fingers again. Zack understood that he had become the servant of the evil god of pain, and he had embarked on the path of an apostle. This was a difficult road. If he wanted to become stronger, he had to constantly offer sacrifices to the evil god of pain, and that sacrifice would be his own pain, or the pain of others. These pains would please the evil god, and the evil god would also grant him power. He hadn't become a level 1 apostle yet, but at least he was stronger than before. If someone wrestled with him again, once they came into contact, he could amplify other people's pain nerves and make them feel severe pain. Just as Zack was fantasizing about how powerful he was, a sound suddenly came from the bridge above his head. It was the sound of a cane falling on a stone slab, and the metal cane tip knocked against the stone slab, making a crisp sound. "Zack, congratulations." Zack was startled and jumped out of the bridge hole like a rabbit, looking up at the bridge above. Captain Rudolph. At this moment, Zack was very scared. Captain Rudolph maintained the law and order of the town, and Zack was very afraid that Captain Rudolph would directly make him a sacrifice this month. Looking up at Captain Rudolph, behind Captain Rudolph was the moon that was close to full, as if he was carrying the moon on his shoulders. "Zack, slowly control your power. Don't let power become a beast in the wilderness. I hope you can be like you said, just to protect those beggars, you have to take this path. I don't want you to become like Broken Palm Townsend one day." Rudolph originally wanted to say that if Zack went astray, he would correct his mistakes, and the way to correct his mistakes was to send Zack to the altar. But Rudolph couldn't say the words that followed. He is not God, so how can he be qualified to correct others? Zack was a little surprised. It seemed that Captain Rudolph had no intention of dealing with him immediately. "I understand. Thank you, Captain Rudolph." Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 129. Zack was a little worried. He knew that he was now a heretic and had to hide from the police station. However, when he saw Captain Rudolph on the road, Captain Rudolph would smile at him. A few days later, Zack found Rudolph on his rounds one night. Zack plucked up the courage and said, "Captain, are you really not going to send me to the altar?" "No preparation. As long as you don't intentionally harm the town or cause pain in the town, you are free to do whatever you want." "Then, Captain, don't you want to fatten me up before you take action?" "Get fat? Look at yourself. How does it have anything to do with obesity? You can't get fat, trust me." Zack stretched out his hand to stop Rudolph, who was walking forward. "Captain, if you have any orders in the future, please tell me. I don't have any other abilities. I can still fight for you and run errands for you." Rudolph smiled. "Are you ready to be my little brother? It would be even better if I could be your little brother." Rudolph thought for a while and said, "Okay, if I need your help with anything, I will come to you. So what can I do now?" "Just take care of those beggars." I don't want to deal with your bodies this winter. This is what I should do, what else? Do you have to do something? Yes. Then help me keep an eye on Lehman Town. If anything strange happens, tell me as soon as possible. New. Rudolph didn't feel like he had gained a younger brother, but Zack seriously felt that he had gained a big brother. Rudolph didn't let Zack go completely either. Some apostles are particularly independent, such as wizards, living corpses, etc. They rarely gather among themselves, because wizards prefer one person to possess a large number of witchcraft tools, and living corpses prefer one person to possess a large collection of corpses. Some apostles have acquired organizational qualities, such as knights, alchemists, etc. Their organizational nature is mainly driven by active choices that benefit the collective. The knights formed the aristocracy, and the alchemists formed the parliament. They used their huge size to benefit the whole and individuals. Some apostles were extremely organized. For example, evil gods, vampires, and werewolves. Zack has now become the painful priest of the evil god. The evil god is a sect whose purpose is to sacrifice the evil god and constantly organizes sacrificial activities in various places. It is no exaggeration to say that every evil god priest has had direct contact with the evil god and has their own tasks in the evil god sect. Rudolph felt that Zack might have been targeted by the Pain sect, just because of the big move of the Inquisition office some time ago, and the cleanup was relatively thorough, leaving Lehman Town without an evil priest for the time being. Rudolph can believe in Zack, but he cannot believe in the cult of Pain. Just a few days later, Zack found Rudolph. "Captain, I have been hearing a strange voice these past few nights. He always asks me to go to Fabreau City and ask me to find a senior priest." Just as Rudolph guessed, the evil god sect has more convenient contact methods and can directly influence every priest or servant. "Hold on, you must not go. If you go, you will be brainwashed by the high-ranking priests. At that time, you will be like Townsend Halfhand, only knowing how to work hard for the sect, and becoming more and more cruel in the painful torture." Kay didn't want to be like Townsend Halfhand, so he was obedient. No matter how painful he was tormented by the voices in his head at night, he didn't want to go to the high priest of the sect. This kind of pain is meaningless, it is pure pain. This is the sect's method of punishing disobedient servants of God, and it will not please the evil god. Soon, two strangers appeared around Beggar, which caught Zack's attention. He had a bad premonition that he would not go to the painful sect, but the painful sect sent someone to find him. The beggars slept in the alleys, covered with whatever they could find, old clothes, torn curtains, even layers of newspapers. However, they slept peacefully. Zack stood guard at the entrance of the alley, looking at the two people in front of him. A young man had a broken calf bone. He didn't get treatment in time, or maybe he broke it himself, which made one of his legs long and the other short. Another middle-aged man, he lowered his hood, revealing a face with his nose cut off. The man whose nose was cut off said, "I seem to know why you didn't respond to the evil god's call. Is it because of those beggars?" Zack was very nervous at this time. He knew that he was no match for the two people in front of him. He was just a servant of God, not a real apostle. Zack clenched his fists, thinking about how to notify the patrol at night. "Yes, I can't leave here for the time being. These beggars are all my friends." The man whose nose was cut off continued. "Let's go, I'll change places, don't disturb your friend's sleep." Zack followed, at least he was more relieved to be away from Beggar. After moving to another location, the middle-aged man whose nose was cut off continued. "Each of us pain priests embarked on the path of seeking relief because they could not bear the pain in life. Don't be nervous, as long as you become a servant of God in pain, then we will be partners on the road to liberation. I can leave you a sum of money, and you leave it to the beggars to make their lives better." Hearing this condition, Zack was a little moved. The middle-aged man continued. The pain of a single person is small and fragile. The purpose of our pain sect is to create a world without pain. As long as our God can become the supreme God, he can take the place of everyone and bear the pain of everyone. At that time, we will not feel pain when our skin is broken, and we will not feel pain when our loved ones leave. All the pain will belong to the evil God. And all the happiness will be left to every believer. Zach couldn't help asking, will it really be so beautiful? The middle-aged man nodded. Really? The only problem now is that the evil god Pain has not yet ascended to the position of the supreme god. We need to provide supplies for the evil god Pain. As long as there are enough supplies and enough faith, we can help the evil god. God of Pain becomes the supreme god. How can the evil god of Pain send enough faith? Under the guidance of the evil god, painful events are created again and again. After summarizing, the great evil god found that the total amount of pain experienced by a person in his life is certain. It is nothing more than the difference between the first and the last, and you must always experience those pains. We create some minor painful events, which actually reduces the pain they suffer in other places. We are creating pain, but we are also taking away pain. At the same time, the evil god will also be sublimated in these pains. And the evil god who is sublimated to the supreme god can take away all the pain in this world. Enjoy the pain, let you and I enjoy the pain, let the evil god enjoy the pain, so that we can completely say goodbye to the pain. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 130. Zach was slightly moved, but felt that something was wrong. He remembered the feeling of hunger, the feeling of eating only a little bread for 3 days, the feeling of dizziness, panic, and stomachache from hunger. He remembered the feeling of being beaten. It hurt, but he only dared to hide in the alley quickly because he knew that even if he cried on the street, there would not be many people who sympathized with him. He remembered the sad feeling, the feeling when burying Yufang with his own hands. There were always friends who hurriedly froze to death, starved to death or died of other reasons before they grew up. This is all pain. I don't know why, but it always happens to me. Zach really wants to have a world without pain, where there is no hunger, no discrimination, and no beatings. That is a wonderful world. He suddenly understood why it was so cruel to become a priest of pain, but there were still people who harmed themselves and joined this sect. It's hope that this world will become perfect. And maybe, a little revenge. I have suffered too much. If there is a name that allows me to take revenge on others, it will be so tempting. Offer a feast of pain to the evil god of pain, sacrifice to him, worship him, and one day, he will take away all the pain in the world. The painful priest whose nose was cut off spoke again. In the name of pain, redemption is done. Redemption is the true meaning of pain. The Lord of Redeemer is one of the true names of the evil god of pain. Zach murmured, salvation, the Lord of the Redeemer. Let's find a way to redeem ourselves together. The painful priest whose nose was cut off had a proud look on his face. Sure enough, the woman Jessica's method was right. The spread of fear was too slow to satisfy the evil god's requirements. Just as the evil hive is now the goddess of harvest, the evil god of pain is becoming the Lord of redemption. In the past, it would have taken some effort to develop a qualified pain priest, but now, spreading evil in the name of good has become much easier. This is what these low-level priests, these lowest priests, thought of. How could those high-ranking priests who were far away from the quagmire understand what was most needed to spread the doctrine? How is it possible to understand what the most numerous people at the bottom need most? The evil god's insect hive, no, the harvest goddess has already lowered her divine power, directly making Jessica a level 3 priest, and a favored person with the harvest goddess divine power, and a favored person who is watched by the harvest goddess. If nothing unexpected happens, Jesse will be promoted quickly and become the most trusted priest of the harvest goddess. And he will also go through experiments again and again to find better ways to spread the teachings for the evil god Pain. Zack glanced into the alley where the beggars were sleeping. He might be leaving them. Now, Zack will follow the Redeemer and work towards greater things. The man whose nose was cut off had a satisfied smile on his face, and his deliberate trip was justified. This is good, this is very good. The lost servant of God finally returned to God. He put on his hood and prepared to take away the servant of God in front of him. Besides coming to fetch you, we have other things to do. You are familiar with Lehman Town, and we need your help in investigating Lehman Town. Although the spread of the Harvest sect was interrupted by the tribunal, it spread very smoothly in the early stage. I want to know every detail in it. We, the Redeemer sect, cannot afford to fall behind. Zack, come on, I'll tell you what you need to do. Zack wanted to agree, but he suddenly saw a figure appearing at the end of the alley in the distance. A crisp suit, an elegant cane. Zack wanted to remind the Pain priest in front of him, but he kept his mouth shut. As a man walking in Lehman Town at night and having a gentleman's cane, Zack immediately thought of Captain Rudolph. A metal ball flew towards several priests of Pain. With a bang, the metal ball exploded under the feet of several people. It turned out to be a smoke bomb, an alchemical smoke bomb modified by Rudolph. In just a moment, the surrounding area was obscured by thick smoke. Zack couldn't see anything in the thick smoke, so he could only wave his hands helplessly, trying to catch something. He wanted to catch the two priests who had just spoken to him. They were members of the sect. I kept coughing, and I don't know how long I kept coughing. The smoke in front of me finally slowly faded and dissipated. Zack hurriedly looked around. In order to keep the conversation private, they chose an extremely remote alley. It was under the outer wall of a warehouse and there was no one around at night. Zack saw Captain Rudolph, who was walking deeper into the alley step by step. Rudolph was a little disappointed with Zack. The gentleman's cane hit the ground, which made Zack feel more and more panicked. Rudolph stood not far from Zack, with two priests of Pain at his feet. Zack, do you remember what I told you a few days ago? Remember. I told you, Zack, not to have anything to do with the Pain cult. You are still young and cannot control it. I know, it wasn't me who contacted them, it was them who came to find me. Zack, don't deceive yourself. I see your hesitation. Zack, I sympathize with you and sympathize with you, so I don't want to see you become a member of the cult of Pain. Everyone will encounter misfortune, and this is no reason to harm others. You can take revenge on specific people for misfortune, that's human nature. However, if you join the Pain cult, you will be coerced, driven, and become the executioner of others. You will release malice to everyone you see. But they say that salvation is the real purpose of the evil god Pain. Lord of Redemption is his real name. Lord of Redemption? Rudolph frowned. The evil god is getting more and more cunning now, and he actually packaged himself like this. I am not interested in debating with you about the doctrine of pain or salvation. Rudolph shook his head. As far as I know, a lot of pain is created by the evil god. If the evil god Pain dies, the world can reduce pain. If the evil god Pain wants to be redeemed, then his suicide is the redemption of the world. Rudolph suddenly felt a pain in the middle of his brow, and his danger instinct was activated. It seemed that he had just offended something, and there was a faint whisper in his ears. Could it be that the full moon could also hear whispers? Or was it that the evil god was in pain and had the means to pay attention to all the suffering priests? Rudolph stroked his brow gently, not knowing how to get rid of the faint whispers. Rudolph closed his eyes slightly and began to look up at the star map in his mind. Maybe the magical star map can help him. After a few seconds, the whispers disappeared. Rudolph breathed a sigh of relief. Talking nonsense hurts people, don't talk about those great beings in the future. However, the pain came from the middle of his brow again, and the danger instinct reminded him again. Rudolph quickly perked up and paid attention to his surroundings, and then he saw a bone spur stabbing at him. A suffering priest on the ground did not lose resistance. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 131. The smoke bomb is a special weapon made by Rudolph, specially designed to cooperate with his level 2 poisoning technique and subsequent witchcraft. Level 2 poison smoke can't make this priest lose consciousness. Is he a level 2 pain priest? Could this priest also be like the Black Queen Jessica, experimenting with the new means of spreading the evil god's doctrine? The bone spur rushed straight to Rudolph's abdomen. If he was stabbed, with the ability of the pain priest, once hit, Rudolph's pain would be magnified several times. The handle of Rudolph's cane suddenly burst into a dazzling light at this moment. In this dark night, this light pierced the eyes of several people around. This is a level 1 white magic light bead, which does no harm, but is dazzling enough. Rudolph also has a level 2 white magic light bead, but because the witch language does not match, it has not been made into a witch weapon. Although it only emits a dazzling strong light, it is sudden enough, which is enough. In the strong light, Rudolph saw a face with a cut nose. The man whose nose was cut off had his eyes closed, so he could only follow the direction of his memory and stab the bone spur forward. Just a little bit of opportunity was enough for Rudolph to turn his body sideways and avoid this fatal stab. After avoiding the attack of the bone spur, Rudolph raised his cane and smashed it hard on the head of the priest. This time the strong light was shot in the form of a beam of light, and Rudolph's eyes were not in the direct range of the beam. The cane hit the head, which was far more painful than usual, which surprised the painful priest. Woo! Before he said the second word, chi, Rudolph was not going to let him go. Purple flames came out of the body of the painful priest. You are. Rudolph was a little surprised that the pain of the level 2 painful priest was so strong. Even if the whole body was in flames, even if the flesh and blood were scorched, this person could still speak. Rudolph increased his star power and burned his throat first. After the death of the painful priest, the alley returned to peace. With the help of the level 2 night vision wolf eye, Rudolph saw several bats flying here. Those bats were probably the bats of the castle, the bats of the Red Church. This feeling of not being free made Rudolph very uncomfortable. He said to Zack, "Stand against the corner." The two of them stood still against the corner. Bats are blind. They mainly rely on echolocation. As long as they don't move, they are not easy to be discovered. Soon, several castle bats came and went. Rudolph turned around and looked at Zack opposite. "Zack, I will give you another chance. I won't do anything to you today. It's not because I believe in you, but because you are a miserable person. I hope you won't let me down. Zack, stay away from the Church of Pain, no matter what image they appear in. You have inhaled the poisonous smoke. Remember, I can kill you at any time, just like I just killed this level 2 priest." Zack nodded. He glanced at the charred corpse on the ground and was a little scared. The purple flame just now made his back cold. He suddenly realized that the evil gods were hiding like rats crossing the street, and they were no match for the Alchemy Council. "I know, Captain Rudolph. Zack, go find Patrolman Sam and tell him that I caught a heretic apostle." Zack left obediently. The young priest of pain was still in a coma. Rudolph squatted in front of him first, and confirmed that he was indeed in a coma, and Rudolph was relieved. A large amount of level 2 scorpion toxins was not something that a level 1 priest of pain could withstand. After he fainted, he knew nothing and would not expose Rudolph's methods. Rudolph came to the middle-aged priest of pain who had been burned to death. The level 2 pain bone spur of this priest of pain was a relic he left behind. It is possible that a level 2 apostle left 2 relics, but it is not absolute. Rudolf looked for it, but unfortunately, this priest of pain only had 1 relic. The relic disappeared from Rudolf's hands, but Rudolf could not make witchcraft here, so he did not go to see the reward for the time being. The middle-aged priest of pain on the ground was once again covered with purple flames. The toxins created by the Scorpio witch language venom invaded every cell of the poisoned person. With these toxins as the raw materials for burning, under the action of the Leo witch language flame, the burning effect of the purple flower fire was very good, especially when burning fat and protein. Not long after, only the ashes of the middle-aged priest of pain were left. The purple flower fire technique is a very practical witchcraft in destroying corpses and erasing traces. A breeze blew, and the ashes were blown away, leaving no trace. Soon, Zack brought Sam back to the alley. Rudolf had already inserted the alchemical dagger into the back of the young priest of pain. "Sam, take this priest of pain back, this is the sacrifice for next month. It is almost December now, and I didn't expect that the captain has already prepared all the sacrifices for next month." Sam replied, "Okay, Captain. I have something else to do, the rest is up to you, be careful." "Understood." Sam took the pain priest away, and Rudolf left the alley. Zack was left with some doubts, not knowing where the middle-aged priest had gone. He just remembered that there was a charred corpse, but now there was nothing. Rudolf came to the suburbs, to a place he often went to. At this time, 3 stars were slowly floating near the ground on the star map in Rudolf's mind, which was exchanged for the level 2 pain bone spur. Level 2 painful bone spikes hit the Scorpio Delta star before, and the progress of Scorpio has reached 13/14. 3 suspended stars fell from the Scorpio Delta star, which is Rudolf's reward. Level 2 broken arm bone spikes, level 2 painful bone powder, level 2 painful cane. Rudolf looked at it and the level 2 broken arm bone spikes were the first to be eliminated. The broken arm bone spikes are almost exclusively prepared for the painful priests, or disabled people can also do it. If you want to become a painful servant, the first step is to self-mutilate. If you want to bring pain to others, you need to taste the pain first. The function of this magic weapon is to make the painful priest grow bone spurs on the broken limbs and attack others unexpectedly. Rudolf obviously doesn't need it. This magic weapon sounds very painful. Wouldn't the new bone spurs pierce the already grown flesh and blood? Only apostles like the painful priest who are extremely tolerant of pain will need this kind of magic weapon. The second item, the pain bone powder, was ruled out by Rudolf without a second thought. No matter what the effect is, Rudolf refused to grind this bone spur into powder and drink it. The third item looks much more normal, the level 2 pain cane. It can just upgrade his level 1 pain cane. Rudolf drew the astrological triangle on the ground, and then placed the level 2 pain bone spur in the circle on the left, and his pain cane in the circle on the right. The witch language used by this witch weapon is still the Leo witch language magnification. Because the relic has become a level 2 relic, the amplification has increased greatly. Rudolf also got an accurate value, the pain feeling is magnified by 2 times, and 2 times the pain is already an unbearable pain. The level 2 pain cane also has a new function, which is forced awakening, and will never faint due to pain. This function applies to both yourself and the enemy. After the production was completed, Rudolf looked at the Scorpio in the star map. Before I knew it, the progress of Scorpio has reached 13/14. I wonder if there will be any other rewards after fully lighting up Scorpio.